Your inbox is a graveyard of automated rejection letters. You spend hours tailoring your resume, matching every keyword, and hitting submit on a job post that was uploaded only 2 hours ago. Then, nothing happens. Or worse, you get a rejection within seconds from a bot that decided your 10 years of experience did not fit their narrow criteria. You look at the news, and they tell you the labor market is resilient. They tell you that unemployment is low and businesses are desperate for talent. But if everyone is hiring, why does it feel like nobody is getting hired? Welcome to the era of the ghost job. This is not a conspiracy theory. According to surveys from platforms like Resume Builder and insights from the Wall Street Journal, nearly 4 in 10 companies admitted to posting job advertisements in the past year that they had no intention of filling. Think about that for a second. You are participating in a job market where 40% of the opportunities are literal figments of a recruiter's imagination. But why would a company spend money and time to post a job they do not want to fill? It is the corporate equivalent of a shiny coat of paint on a crumbling house. If a company stops hiring, it signals to investors that growth has stalled. If they keep a steady stream of job posts active, they look like a booming enterprise to Wall Street. It also keeps their current, overworked employees in line. If you think there is a line of candidates out the door waiting to take your seat, you are a lot less likely to complain about your 3rd consecutive weekend of overtime. The dirty secret is that the modern labor market has become a game of optics. It is not about matching talent with tasks anymore. It is about maintaining the illusion of momentum, while the underlying engine is seizing up. We are starting 2026 with a massive disconnect between what the spreadsheets say and what you see on your screen. The official narrative is that we are in a soft landing, but for the millions of people staring at empty LinkedIn feeds, it feels like a high-speed crash. As we dive into the data from January 2026, you will see that the ghost jobs were just the first sign of the rot. The real damage is much deeper, and it is hidden in reports that most people do not know how to read. We are going to look at why the latest ADP report is a massive warning sign, and why the 118% surge in layoffs is not just a seasonal fluke, but a systemic shift in how the American economy functions. Every month, the ADP National Employment Report drops like a heavy stone into the financial pond. It is supposed to give us a preview of how the private sector is doing before the official government numbers come out. In January 2026, the stone did not just sink. It hit a layer of toxic sludge. Analysts and economists were looking for a modest addition of 45,000 new jobs. It was already a low bar, a sign that everyone knew the party was winding down. But the reality was even worse. Private companies added only 22,000 jobs. That is less than half of what was expected. To put that into perspective, in a country with a population of over 330 million people, adding 22,000 jobs is basically a rounding error. It is the economic equivalent of trying to fill a swimming pool with a teaspoon. ADP chief economist Naila Richardson noted that hiring is softening and that the trend of cooling is continuing. That is a very polite economist way of saying that the engine has stalled, and we are now just coasting on fumes. When you look back at 2022 and 2023, we were seeing months where the economy added 200,000, 400,000, or even 800,000 jobs. Now we are struggling to break 20,000. The trajectory is not just a downward slope, it is a cliff. And the scary part is that these 22,000 jobs are not even high-quality roles. A significant portion of these are part-time or seasonal positions that do not provide the stability or benefits required to sustain a middle-class lifestyle. The ADP report is the first cracks in the dam. While the government might later try to massage the numbers or adjust them for seasonal variations, the private sector data does not lie. Small and medium-sized businesses, which are the backbone of the American economy, are the ones pulling back the hardest. They are the ones who feel the pinch of high interest rates and declining consumer confidence first. When the local hardware store or the regional tech firm stops hiring, it is because they see a storm on the horizon that the big banks are still trying to ignore. This is the math that the headlines try to bury. They want you to focus on the unemployment rate, which stays low because of how it is calculated, but the real story is in the lack of new opportunities. If the private sector is only adding 22,000 jobs, while thousands more are being laid off every single day, the math simply does not add up. We are entering a period where the music has stopped, but the government is still trying to tell everyone to keep dancing. If the hiring slowdown was a warning shot, the layoff data for January 2026 is a full-scale bombardment. According to the latest reports from Challenger, Gray and Christmas, layoffs have surged by a staggering 118% compared to the same time last year. Let that number sink in. We are not talking about a 5 or 10% increase. We are talking about more than double the amount of people being handed pink slips in a single month. January is usually a big month for restructuring, but this is different. This is a bloodbath. Companies across every sector are slashing headcount as if they are preparing for a long, cold winter. We saw it in tech, we saw it in retail, and most surprisingly, we are seeing it in healthcare. The 118% surge is a clear signal that the corporate world has moved from a growth mindset to a survival mindset. When a CEO stands up on an earnings call and talks about efficiency and streamlining operations, what they are really saying is that they overextended themselves and now the workers have to pay the price. They're trying to protect their profit margins and their stock prices at all costs. If that means cutting 10% of the workforce to save a few pennies on the earnings per share, they will do it without blinking. To them, you are not a human being with a mortgage and a family. You are a line item on a spreadsheet that needs to be minimized. The irony is that many of these companies are still reporting billions of dollars in profit. They are not firing people because they are going bankrupt. They are firing people because they are not growing as fast as they promised their investors. In the world of Wall Street, if you are not growing, you are dying. And if you are not dying, you need to find a way to make your profits look bigger, even if it means cannibalizing your own talent pool. This surge in layoffs creates a ripple effect throughout the entire economy. When 100,000 people lose their jobs in a month, that is 100,000 people who stop going to restaurants, stop buying new cars, and start tightening their belts. This is the beginning of what economists call a negative feedback loop. Less spending leads to lower revenue for other businesses, which leads to more layoffs, which leads to even less spending. The 118% increase in January is the first domino to fall in a very long chain. And do not believe the narrative that these people will find new jobs easily. With the hiring rate at a record low, as shown in the ADP report, there is nowhere for these displaced workers to go. They are being pushed out of a shrinking door into a crowded hallway where the lights are being turned off one by one. This is the reality of the 2026 labor market, a massive surge in exits, with almost no new entrances. For decades, the healthcare industry was considered the ultimate safe haven. The logic was simple. People always get sick, so doctors, nurses, and hospital staff will always have jobs. It was the one sector that seemed immune to the booms and busts of the wider economy. But in 2026, the safe haven has become a trap. We are seeing massive layoffs in hospitals and medical systems across the country, and the reasons behind it are a perfect example of how the financial system is broken. Here's the problem. Hospitals are being squeezed from both ends. On one side, the cost of everything has skyrocketed. Labor costs are up, equipment costs are up, and the price of medicine is through the roof. On the other side, the government and insurance companies have decided they are not going to pay more. In fact, they are paying less. According to reports from the American Hospital Association, the reimbursement rates from Medicare and Medicaid have not kept pace with inflation, leaving hospitals with a massive deficit. Imagine running a restaurant where the price of steak doubles, but the government tells you that you are legally required to sell it for $10. Eventually, you are going to go out of business, or you are going to have to fire your waiters and make the chef wash the dishes. That is exactly what is happening in American healthcare. Large hospital systems are cutting hundreds of jobs, not because there are fewer patients, but because they cannot afford to keep the lights on under the current financial model. This is a terrifying development for the average American. When a hospital cuts staff, wait times go up, the quality of care goes down, and the remaining workers become burnt out and prone to errors. It is a systemic rot that is being driven by a refusal to address the underlying costs of the system. Instead of fixing the pharmaceutical monopolies or the insurance bureaucracies, the system is simply cutting the people who actually provide the care. The healthcare layoffs also prove that no one is safe. If the most essential workers in our society are being let after years of being called heroes, what does that mean for the middle manager at a marketing firm or the junior analyst at a bank? It means the old rules of career stability are dead. The healthcare trap is a warning that even the most recession-proof industries can be dismantled by a combination of bad policy and corporate greed. This is not just about jobs. It is about the collapse of a critical infrastructure. We are seeing a shift where the financial health of the institution is being prioritized over the physical health of the population. And as the 2026 layoff surge continues, the healthcare sector will likely remain one of the most painful examples of a system that has forgotten its primary purpose. If you still have a job in 2026, you are probably doing the work of 3 people. This is the era of efficiency gaslighting. Your boss tells you how lucky you are to be here, and in the next breath, they ask you to take on the responsibilities of the colleague who was laid off last week. They tell you that we all need to do more with less, while the CEO receives a record bonus for cutting costs. The catalyst for this shift is the aggressive integration of artificial intelligence and automation. But it is not the kind of AI revolution we were promised. We were told that AI would handle the boring tasks and free us up to be more creative. Instead, AI is being used as a digital whip. It is being used to monitor every keystroke, to optimize every second of your day, and to justify cutting the human elements that make work tolerable. Companies are using the threat of AI to keep wages stagnant. Why give you a 5% raise when they can spend that money on a software subscription that claims to do half your job? According to reports from McKinsey and various tech journals, businesses are prioritizing AI investment over human capital at an unprecedented rate. They are betting that they can automate enough of the process to survive with a skeleton crew. But here is the dirty secret. The AI often does not work as well as they claim. We have all interacted with the useless chatbots that cannot answer a simple question, or the automated systems that create more problems than they solve. But the corporate leadership does not care about the quality of the output as much as they care about the reduction in the payroll. They are willing to accept a worse product if it means a higher profit margin. This is gaslighting on a global scale. They are telling workers that they are being replaced by superior technology, when in reality, they are being replaced by cheaper, inferior tools to satisfy short-term investor demands. This creates a culture of fear and exhaustion. The people who are left behind are constantly looking over their shoulders, wondering if the next update to the company's software will be the one that renders their role obsolete. Efficiency has become a buzzword for exploitation. In the 2026 labor market, the goal is to extract the maximum amount of labor for the minimum amount of cost, and then discard the worker when they are no longer useful. It is a brutal, cold logic that ignores the long-term health of the company in favor of the next quarterly report. And as long as the market rewards this behavior, the gaslighting will only get worse. The American economy is a giant machine fueled by one thing: you buying stuff. Roughly 70% of the gross domestic product, or GDP, comes from personal consumption. When you buy a cup of coffee, a new pair of shoes, or a car, you are keeping the gears turning. But what happens when the people who buy the things are the same people who are losing their jobs? This is the consumption doom loop. When layoffs surge by 118%, that is not just a statistic for the Department of Labor. It is a massive reduction in the total amount of money circulating in the economy. A person who is worried about their job does not buy a new house. A person who just got a pink slip does not go on vacation. As the fear of unemployment spreads, even those with stable jobs start to save more and spend less. This creates a downward spiral. Retailers see their sales drop, so they cut their staff. Manufacturers see fewer orders, so they close factories. Service providers see fewer customers, so they reduce their hours. Every dollar that is removed from a worker's paycheck is a dollar that does not go back into another business. The very layoffs that companies use to save money are the same layoffs that will eventually destroy their customer base. We are already seeing the early stages of this in 2026. Consumer debt is at an all-time high because people have been using credit cards to bridge the gap between their stagnant wages and the rising cost of living. But you can only play that game for so long. Eventually, the credit limits are reached, the interest rates become unbearable, and the spending stops. Wall Street likes to pretend that the stock market is the economy, but it is not. The stock market can stay high for a while as companies cut costs and buy back their own shares. But eventually, the reality of the consumer must set in. If nobody has the money to buy the products, the companies will eventually have nothing to sell. The 118% surge in layoffs is a direct hit to the heart of the American economic engine. It is a slow-motion collision that will define the rest of 2026. If things are so bad, why does the official unemployment rate still look relatively okay? To answer that, you have to understand how the government cooks the books. The official unemployment number, often referred to as the U3 rate, is one of the most misleading statistics in the world. To be counted as unemployed, you have to be actively looking for work. If you get discouraged and stop looking for a few weeks, you are magically no longer unemployed in the eyes of the government. You simply vanish from the data. Then there is the issue of underemployment. If you were a senior software engineer making $200,000 a year and you got laid off, but now you are driving for Uber 10 hours a week to pay for groceries, the government considers you fully employed. In their eyes, there is no difference between a high-productivity career and a desperate side hustle. This hides the massive destruction of wealth and professional talent that is happening right now. According to critics of the Bureau of Labor Statistics, the way we measure the labor market is designed to provide a sense of stability, not a reflection of reality. They use seasonal adjustments that can swing the numbers by hundreds of thousands of jobs based on historical patterns that may no longer apply in our post-pandemic world. They also frequently revise their numbers months later, long after the headlines have moved on. Have you noticed how many times a positive jobs report is quietly revised downward 2 months later? That is not an accident. It is a feature of the system. Furthermore, the gig economy has become a giant rug that the government uses to sweep the unemployed under. By encouraging people to become independent contractors, companies avoid paying benefits and taxes, and the government gets to keep their employment numbers high. But these are not stable jobs. They are precarious, low-wage roles that offer no path to the middle class. The 2026 labor market is being masked by a layer of statistical theater. While the ADP report shows the private sector is dying, the official government narratives will likely try to paint a different picture until it becomes impossible to ignore. They need you to stay confident so you keep spending, even if that confidence is based on a lie. Understanding the dirty secret of the 2026 layoff surge requires you to look past the televised numbers and see the reality of the people around you. So, where does this leave us? We are standing in a labor market that is defined by ghost jobs, shrinking private sector growth, a 118% spike in layoffs, and an essential healthcare sector that is crumbling under its own weight. It is easy to feel like a victim in this system, but the first step to survival is seeing the game for what it actually is. The old contract between employer and employee is not just broken, it has been shredded and thrown in the incinerator. The survival map for 2026 requires a radical change in mindset. You cannot rely on a single company for your security. You have to view yourself as a business of one. The corporate world has shown that it has zero loyalty to its workers, even in the most critical industries. Therefore, you owe them zero loyalty in return. Your primary goal should be diversifying your income streams and building a safety net that does not depend on a monthly paycheck from a giant corporation. We are also seeing a massive shift in where the power lies. For a brief moment during the Great Resignation, workers had the upper hand. Now, the pendulum has swung back violently in favor of the employers. They are using this moment to reclaim control, to lower wages, and to demand more work for less pay. But this power dynamic is fragile. A company that fires its best people and replaces them with mediocre AI will eventually lose its competitive edge. The winners in the long run will be the individuals who can navigate this chaos without losing their sanity. Keep a close eye on the real indicators. Ignore the fluffy headlines and look at the ADP reports, the Challenger layoff data, and the actual job postings in your industry. If you see the ghost job patterns, do not waste your time. Focus on networking and direct connections, rather than shouting into the void of an automated application portal. In a world of digital ghosts, human relationships are the only thing that still has real value. The 2026 layoff surge is a painful correction, but it is also a revealing one. It is stripping away the illusions of the modern economy and showing us the cold, hard machinery underneath. It is a world where profit is the only metric that matters, and where the human cost is always an afterthought. But by understanding the dirty secrets of this system, you can at least stop being surprised when the floor drops out. The math of the labor market does not add up because it was never meant to benefit you. It was meant to benefit the shareholders and the institutions that manage the data. Your job is to find the gaps in that system, to protect your own interests, and to remember that your value as a human being is not defined by a line item on a corporate spreadsheet. The storm is here, but with the right map, you can find your way through it.